And the only way this changes your life, because the reality is that this one thing, this one tool changes your whole life. So hopefully in the next minutes, I can give you some actual tools to help you be more assertive. And I think this is one of those things that are practical across any type of relationship, across any type of business, across anything. Literally everything in your life requires an assertive you. Why? Because that means a confident you. That's a self-esteem thing. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But the reality that if you are assertive, you're able to get more done. You're able to get more across the table. You're able to communicate so much better because you are confident and full on who you are. And I think that a lot of people struggle with this, especially now. We struggle with the fact that we're not happy with who we are. We're not assertive enough. And I'm not a huge fan of the actual definition of assertive, because according to Google or wherever the dictionary that they use, it says having or showing a confident and forceful personality. And I don't think that last part actually fits into the definition of assertive, because assertive people, they might seem a bit forceful because of their confidence. They're not necessarily forcing anything on anyone. It's actually the opposite. They're people who are so confident in them that they don't have to force a situation. They simply enter into something. So the reality that you don't have to be forceful. If you are assertive, it's because your presence has power, and that's the authoritative, and that's a reality. And every human person has this, but a lot of us have been pushed away or pushed into a side or made feel like we're background people, that we don't actually live in the assertiveness of who we are. And this has this huge power balance. There's a struggle between people who are assertive and people who aren't assertive, and it's easy for them to take advantage of people. And this happens often, right? And it's not always their fault. There are certain people in our lives that don't honor our boundaries, and they walk all over us, but they never knew what our boundaries were. We never declared to them. We never said it to them. We never made it clear. We just sat down and wallowed in it. We just soaked in the fact that people aren't honoring our boundaries. So when we talk about assertiveness, it has to be at its core an understanding of the dynamic between you and people that you speak to, what you're made for, who you are. All these things play a huge role into your assertiveness. This power structure, this power struggle that we see so often, we see people get easily manipulated because, again, there's no assertiveness behind who they are. And you actually have this natural thing, no matter who you are, right? You have this natural pull that there is something in you that is meant to be assertive, that is meant to be confident. So this power balance and people not honoring our boundaries, it's a huge part of not being assertive. And we'll talk a little bit more about boundaries later, but we need to first establish that who you are is assertive. This is just at its core what this means. It's to be confident in you. And that first portion of it, self-esteem. Assertiveness is tied directly into your self-esteem, because in any relationship, whether it's business, whether it's romantic, whether it's friendship, platonic, all these things, whatever kind of relationships you're in, when you walk into a place, you can walk in as you and be so confident that in who you are, that is assertive. You might be the person that does not fit in that room. Like, you might be the person that doesn't make sense that you're in this room, that you shouldn't be here, but you're so confident in you. Your self-esteem is so high that assertiveness now asserts that you are meant to be there, that people walk up to you and there's something about you. They want to talk to you. They want to shake your hand. They want to know you. This is how that's done. It's this reality of being able to balance who you are and being so confident in who you are that it gravitates. There are certain people that you might have spoken to in your life that you're just like, why is this person just so easy to talk to? Or why does everybody want to be their friend? It's not that they do anything special or unique or different. It's just that they're so grounded in them that they don't care what anyone else thinks. And people love that. People love when people are happy with them. Subconsciously or consciously, for some of us, we're aware that seeing people fully who they are is attractive. It's beautiful. I want to be like that. Whether I know it or don't know it, but something in me sees that in that person and desires to be. So assertive people have this confidence in them, this aura that they give off, that it's just inviting, and they feel, wow, this person belongs here, or this person is someone I should follow, or this person is someone I should agree with. Assertiveness at its core is self-esteem, is you being aware of who you are, of what you were made for. And there's this quote by Dr. Hubert Fensterman, who's a psychiatrist. And he says this, he says, the extent to which you assert yourself determines the level of your self-esteem. So there's certain things that you need to put yourself into. And there's certain things that you're missing out in, that you were made for, but because you're afraid to be in those things, you don't assert yourself in it. You don't assert yourself to the point where people talk to you or do something or walk over you or again, those boundaries, they don't respect them, but you don't assert who you are because your self-esteem is so low that you've allowed these people to do that. At the end of the day, our self-esteem is at the core of our assertiveness. It's at the core of who we are. We will never assert ourselves in a situation if we have not learned to love who we are first. And you don't have to be perfect. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people struggle with. They think, oh, well, my self-esteem is low because I don't look a certain way or because I don't act a certain way. The truth is that it's not perfection. It's not about being perfect. It's about actually the opposite, understanding your imperfection and knowing that it's not a hindrance or balance to anything else, that it's just a part of your character, a part of who you are as a human, and things that you can develop and things that you can work on and things that you should work on. But it doesn't take away from who you are. That whole saying, that next point is fake it till you make it. And I think that's kind of dumb sometimes, but actually kind of really good. Science actually helps us understand this, right? If you wake up in the morning and there's that champion pose, right? The superhero pose where you put your hands in your waist or you lift your hands really high, you actually give yourself an endorphin boost. You actually feel better. You actually feel like you're going to do something productive. If the first thing you do in the morning is force yourself to smile, you're likely going to be happier throughout the day. Why? Because this is how your brain works. Your brain believes the action that it takes. This is actually very deep when it comes to faith, right? It's taking the step. Right? If you're taking that step and moving into something, then the rest is going to follow. You have so much faith in you or faith in God or faith in what's going to happen that you take that next step and everything else follows. Yes, fake it till you make it is one of those like dumb cliche things to say, but there's so much value there because the truth is that if you are able to step into something knowing that it's a part of you, your mind is going to follow what you've already done, the action you've taken. I always compare this to like cleaning my room. I hate it, worst thing in the world. It's always a mess, but then somehow it's always clean. But then whatever, the balance of it, the starting of something, it's what creates the reality of what it is. So I hate to do it, but when I start cleaning it, I can't stop. It becomes a snowball effect. Everything becomes really, really nice and really clean. You need to start something for everything else to follow. It doesn't matter how perfect or imperfect you are. These are the things that are molded, right? Your imperfection now becomes perfected through effort, through practice. Perfection is made in practice. The things that you have done, now you create a space for it. So telling yourself that you are confident, telling yourself that you do belong here, telling yourself that you are a part of this, telling yourself that you're going to stand up for yourself and just doing it. It is the hugest change in everything. It's this reality where we now are starting to become confident in us. We start to become assertive in us. And then this ultimate point where it's create clear boundaries. And this one is going to hurt because I think for a lot of us, we've become comfortable with bare minimum from people. And we haven't declared boundaries because we're afraid to lose them. And I just want you to think about this for a second. Why do you have to keep violating your boundaries for people to feel like they are comfortable around you? And if they're comfortable around you while your boundaries are being violated, then why is it that you want them around you? The truth is that you shouldn't. I think too many of us have just become so comfortable with that because that first point of it all, our self-esteem is so low that we can't assert what we desire. And I'm living by this at this point in my life. At this age, this is a truth for me, that I'm going to walk away from anything that is clearly not respectable or loving of my boundaries and not inviting into it because it doesn't deserve the value that you are giving into it. If you are confident in who you are, if you love who you are, you'll stop loving people that don't love you in that. You'll stop letting people walk over your boundaries. If you are assertive, if you assert yourself into something, you're going to be clear and declarative of those things. And I know it's hard. It's not the easiest thing in the world. But again, that fake it till you make it thing, you have to start doing things in faith. Start acting, start reacting, start making changes and letting things follow. The only way that you will ever be assertive, and the only way this changes your life, because the reality is that this one thing, this one tool changes your whole life. The fact that you are assertive changes how you view and how you act with everything and how people act with you. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, that people now begin to respect you and understand who you are and invite you and bring you to places. Me personally, I've been fortunate that I get to travel and speak often, right? And I remember recently that I was at an event and I'm like, I'm the least known person in this event. No one knows who I am. But no one would have known otherwise. Like the people that didn't know, I seemed so natural. This was a common thing for me, because it kind of is, but it was a common thing for me that I didn't feel out of place. In fact, I did so much better because of that. I think sometimes we get lost in the fact that we think that we don't belong. That's not true. You belong more than anyone else. You belong just as much as they do. And until you get that into your mind, until you get that into your head, you'll continue to diminish or downplay or lower yourself. And you'll continue to believe that your cap and your limit is this level of self-esteem, which you have lied to yourself and made norms in. At the end of the day, it's all on you. To be assertive, to step into what you are, to actually be this person. Yes, there could be 1,000 pieces of advice and 1,000 pieces of evidence, but you have to decide, who am I? Am I going to allow people to continue to lie to me, or am I going to step into who I actually am?